The Dutch army has these pretty slick gun truck platoons with Mercedes-Benz G-Wagens whipping around the battlefield with 50 cals and ATGMs, and their Ranger Battalion is replacing it with what looks like the love child of a G-Wagen and a Foxhound. The Mercedes-Benz G280 CDI is the legacy platform, introduced to replace the G290 GD in this role. It's powered by a Mercedes-Benz OM642 turbocharged diesel V6. It's 185 horsepower, whips around the 5-ton combat-loaded chassis up to 70 kilometers or 43 miles per hour off-road, and 160 kilometers or 99 miles per hour on-road when unlimited, 120 and 75 when limited. It has space for 5, although they typically roll with a 4-man crew. In the gun truck role, they typically mount a Mag 58 medium machine gun for use by the co-driver, and an M2 Browning caliber 50 heavy machine gun on a ring mount. In 2022, though, the Dutch government ordered 41 Defenture Vectors to fill an urgent requirement in the 11th Air Mobile Brigade. These are used by the 12th Ranger Battalion, the Special Operations Force Support Battalion, to achieve commonality with the Commando Corps who are already using the Vector. It's designed to be internally loaded into a CH-47 Chinook cargo helicopter, so it looks slightly narrow for his size. Its armament is the same as the old G-Wagen, although the 11th Air Mobile Brigade also employs the Heckler & Koch GMG 40mm automatic grenade launcher. These are not used by the 13th Light Brigade with Boxers to my knowledge. Other air mobile units, though, will have their G280s replaced by the Rheinmetall Caracal based on the G-Class 464 platform. In Boxer units, the last rumor I heard is that they'll be replaced by the new 30mm gunned Boxer, perhaps replicating the anti-tank platoons that Germany plans to introduce to its Boxer battalion heavy companies, although I don't know if that's confirmed. Now that you know what the vehicles are, the specific units I'm talking about today are the patrol platoon of the 11th Air Mobile Brigade and the heavy weapons platoon of the 13th Light Brigade. The platoon structures themselves are basically identical, 8 vehicles, 4 personnel per vehicle, but how they slot in is different, and Air Mobile is a little more high speed. The 11th Air Mobile Brigade's primary maneuver elements are the 11th and 13th Air Assault Infantry Battalions and the 12th Ranger Battalion. Each Dutch Air Assault Battalion consists of a battalion staff, 3 infantry companies lettered Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, and a patrol company. This patrol company has a company staff, 1 or 2 patrol platoons, the 12th Ranger Battalion only has 1, and scout platoon. In the 13th Light Brigade, meanwhile, the primary maneuver elements are the 17th and 42nd Armored Infantry Battalions, mounted primarily on the Boxer APC and Bushmaster Protected Mobility Vehicle, although there are plans to add a CV-90 battalion to the brigade as well. Each of these motorized armored infantry battalions consists of a battalion staff, 3 armored infantry companies, and a maneuver and support company as Delta. When task organized for deployment, the infantry companies are called teams. The heavy weapons platoons are organic to the infantry companies themselves. Each Boxer company consists of a company staff, including a Boxer for the commander, Bushmaster for the deputy commander, Fennec for the fire support team, Iveco Manticore for the sergeant major, and logistics trucks. 2 infantry platoons with 4 Boxers each, see my video on them to get a detailed breakdown, the heavy weapons platoon, sniper group, and 81mm mortar group, which was moved here from Delta Company last year. Because of the different placement in the hierarchy, the patrol and heavy weapons platoons have slightly different roles. Both are very mobile, lightly or unprotected, and have significant dismounted anti-tank capabilities and heavy machine guns, so they're capable of engaging enemy armor and suppressing infantry. But heavy weapons actually makes up a significant portion of the Boxer Company's combat power, as they only have 2 infantry platoons, so a lot of their utility comes from direct fire support of infantry, forming a mobile quick reaction force, and plugging gaps where needed, as they're the company's operators of Spike ATGMs, supplementing the battalion-level teams on Fennecs. They're also the most capable anti-tank organic to the company. Now, they aren't the most survivable units out there. In force-on-force exercises against mechanized battalions, I've heard they take heavy casualties, but they do take a lot of the enemy with them and can economize force for the commander, using fewer resources to do the job of a larger unit. The patrol platoon, on the other hand, fill a more specialized reconnaissance and security role for their battalions. As the bulk of the Air Mobile Delta Company's combat power, they're really the security piece of R&S, operating forward of the infantry companies just behind the Brigade Reconnaissance Squadron. The enemy gets attrited, the battalion commander gets information, and the battalion is protected. My 12 Delta guy tells me he's never personally been employed dispersed amongst the infantry companies to provide fire support, although use could probably vary by unit and the situation. Now, let's get into the equipment and structure of these platoons. But first, the featured Patreon and member task force in this video is the 13th Air Mobile Brigade. They will tab check you at the door, just don't ask them about the state of their spines. But anyway, as I mentioned before, both heavy weapons and patrol platoons consist of 8 vehicles with 4 crew per vehicle. They're split into 4 groups. Nowadays, these are Romeo and Echo Group, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. Romeo and Echo being the Dutch call signs for platoon commanders and deputies respectively. In the past, a Romeo, Echo, Alpha, and Bravo setup has also been used. The platoon commander is generally a first lieutenant. This kind of platoon seems to be a second command sort of thing, usually precluding second lieutenants, although it can happen rarely. Deputy platoon commanders are usually sergeants first class. The other squads are commanded by a sergeant, sometimes a sergeant first class depending on how long they've been in the role. In their second vehicle sits the deputy group commander, ranking either corporal with OLK leadership training or corporal first class. Each vehicle has their commander and co-driver, driver, gunner, and a light machine gunner. Major crew-served weapons include the co-driver's Mag-58, gunner's M2 Browning, Spike ATGM, typically the MR variant and probably the LR in the future, and 1 optional 60mm mortar per platoon that can be carried with whoever is qualified to use it. Also, Wall Doctrine calls for 1 spike clue per vehicle, 2 per group. I'm told that it's often only 1 spike per group due to availability issues and a shortage of qualified shooters. Each vehicle also carries 1 clue for the Panzerfaust III anti-tank weapon, doctrinally with 2 to 3 rounds if the vehicles have the spike missile racks. A Panzerfaust can be mounted above 2 spike rounds, but it's often just a single round on the hood or bonnet. I'm told the racks are DIY non-standard solutions. As well, the 4th man uses a Mini-Me LMG for dismounted security, movement, counter-ambush, and as a backup for when the other guns go down, although he generally uses a personal C8 carbine when mounted. There's also an AG-36 underbarrel grenade launcher usually used by the gunner, although in the 12th Ranger Battalion this is optional. Otherwise, everyone gets a C8 carbine and Glock 17 pistol as personal weapons. This is the case in both air assault and boxer units and isn't particularly special to these sorts of platoons. Everyone in regular infantry platoons are also authorized Glock 17s, although they usually get the full-length C7. Thanks to my patrons and channel members who allow me to make these videos. Over the next year or so, I want to build the audience-funded portion of my revenue. You don't like watching sponsored ad reads, I don't like making them, and my patrons and members allow me to do things like pay rent without them. As a thank you, you'll get access to my private Discord, merch benefits at certain tiers, these shoutouts, and access to videos right when I finish them instead of when it's algorithmically ideal, all while helping me make videos about unit organization details that only nerds like us care about. I'll see you over there.